I think we have to be talking about much deeper, much closer community relationships where there's actual trust. And again, to be open to not who those partners are supposed to be necessarily, but who we are now. Because who some of our organizations were 5 years ago or 10 years ago is not who we are now, and what we're willing to do and how much we're willing to put out there is different now. I also think we have to be willing to take risks and be willing to sacrifice our ego to say we don't know how to do that, but we got to figure out how to do that, you know? And that's been true with Song around deepening our campaign arm. It's like we will say openly, we have not known how to do that, but we need to figure it out really fast, right? Instead of staying in what the nonprofit models and some of the foundation models have pushed, which is stay in your niche, stay in what you're good, right? And that's not a movement orientation, right? That's a nonprofit orientation, right? And we have to be willing to take some more risks and have those conversations with the folks that we think, oh, I don't know how to talk to them. It's awkward over breakfast. It's kind of like a first date, right? It's kind of like a first date, and we see that all the time as often it's rooms where we're the only LGBT group, right? Nobody wants to talk to us, but let's get friendly and have a little date, platonically.
I agree with everything Caitlin said. I would organize ourselves across our own group. And I think that HK-on-J, the HK-on-J Coalition in North Carolina is a good example. It's a good example of the growing pains you go through trying to do that. It's a good example of the missteps, but most importantly, it's a good example of the success that you can have in doing so. In building a movement where people really take you seriously and they don't think that you're continued voices crying out in the darkness or the wilderness, which I think some of them take us for granted. Having said that, it's time to act up a little bit. We got to get kicked out of our comfort zone. Dr. Lanice Bias, the mother of Lynn Bias, I met her years and years ago. And I asked her, how did she get involved in reaching out to young people? And she said that it wasn't until her son died that she was kicked out of her comfort zone and forced to move. This economic crisis that's hitting our communities, people unemployed, the unemployment rate in the African American community is almost 2 times, and in some demographics or areas, it's about 3 times higher than the general population. Everybody's working, I say, except black folk. We got to be honest about it. We've got to get serious about putting people back to work and hold folk accountable for the promises that they made. And I'm talking about President Barack Obama, this jobs plan bill, this new Jobs Act. And he's talking about construction workers and so forth. Well, if you're going to continue to put the money in the hands of the people who have it now, then it's going to do absolutely nothing to change the unemployment situation. We got to act up. We got to be informed, educated, engaged, and work across our coalitions. And we must not let up. We've got to keep moving.
Thank you. So I think for Flock as an organization, I think for Latinos just in general, you know, we've realized that, you know, if you think that the politicians are going to help you out, if you think they have your best interests in mind, then you're insane. And I think Flock's campaign has always been, if we know that the corporations and the moneyed interests hold power over the political system, why waste our time in the political system? Why not go straight to the corporations? And that's always been our campaign, and we've had, you know, we can move these corporations if we stand together. And I want to cut my comments short really quick because I noticed that my sister Vidi's in the background, and I don't know how NC Dream Team isn't up here on this panel. So I want to, I don't know if there's a way to get the sister up here to talk. I don't know if there's a way we can get her to talk, but this sister and the NC Dream Team, probably the most inspiring, hardcore, real grassroots activists in North Carolina.
In summary, I just think it's very important that we try to understand, you know, these unique conditions here in the South. And I think that's why we're here today, to learn more about what's happening here in the South. But the South has a unique history, and therefore we need to have a deeper understanding of that history and how it's strategically important for our movement to understand why organizing in the South and having more working people and grassroots organizations and more working class organizations and more unions in the South is very important to our movement. If we're going to impact, you know, what's going on here today. Madison, Wisconsin, can you imagine if we had 1,000 more of those across the nation? Can you imagine if we played a role in encouraging 1,000 more Madison, Wisconsins? Can you imagine if workers struck and closed down those jobs? Can you imagine the impact on capitalism? Can you imagine the impact on global capitalism? We have to have a strategic view and a plan. GGJ has to have a strategic view on the importance of organizing the South, organizing workers, not just in unions, but in workplace organizations, in their community, to have that kind of impact. And secondly, this strategic importance, just workplace consciousness, and how we can make changes there. We're on the anniversary of the Raleigh sanitation workers strike, where workers struck for 2 days. Tied this city up. They hadn't seen anything like that in a long time. Again, that just gives us some importance, some understanding of the importance of why we have to have a view towards organizing the South, organizing working people in the South in their communities and in their workplace.
Okay, I agree with what folk have said on the panel, so I won't repeat any of it. I think that while we're operating, we have to operate on several fronts. And while we're organizing in communities and workplaces, we also have to look at taking back the government in the small areas that we can, as far as running people for these town councils, the small town councils, putting people on water and soil conservation committees, because those are where a lot of the policies are made. And right now, in addition to everything that they're doing, they're in a season of legislating everything and changing all the policies and the laws and opening it up for there to be no regulation for environmental concerns, how many hog farms there are, how many wells can be drilled, landfills that can come in, and they're couching it in the form of jobs, you know, creating jobs for people. Not what kind of jobs they are, what effects they have on the community, what they will be paid, or what conditions of those workers will be, but just creating jobs, and they're couching it all as that. So we have to start to take back some of these city councils, some of these education boards, or everything that's elected, county commissioners. We have to start looking at that and how we can run our own candidates, because we've had the model, it's been successful in Dudley and Faison and small communities where BWFJ originally came out of. So we have to really look at that and start to take back some of these small communities and boards and make policy changes too, in addition to the organizing in the community.
I believe, in my personal opinion, that we are going through a struggle for a reason, that all this, I take it as a spiritual lesson. This is not just a fight of laws and rights, but it's a spiritual fight. We are here to do good, and so I believe that if we keep the truth in ourselves, and we know the truth, and we fight for the truth, we're going to go up against that evil that has all the lies and the propaganda to fight the truth. So I always remember that this is a spiritual fight, and our farm workers, if they've committed mistakes or they've done something wrong, we have to transform them. They transform, redemption, and move on, and find that spiritual side of them that they can use to fight, because it's a struggle, and it's going to continue, but we must understand that it's for a reason, and God's not going to give you more than you can bear. So that's how I see it, and I think that in the South, everybody can see that, you know, God is talking to the whole world, saying we need to make these changes.
There was a hunger strike here in North Carolina, a couple blocks from here, where our sisters were out there for about 13, 14 days without eating. I was completely inspired by their courage. And then, of course, the I Will No Longer Be Afraid, the campaign where they're coming out and standing strong, getting arrested all over the country. So this is called For the Dreamers. I'm a black woman born in this USA, But they don't treat me like a citizen. What the hell is one anyway? I got a piece of paper that says I belong here, but this land isn't mine. It was stolen before I got here and the history twisted over time. Dreamers come from their country to their country, crossing imaginary lines, and we say, you don't belong here, and they say, this land used to be mine. But we, folks like me, with common sense who know our history, know that they stole Texas and Florida and New Mexico because of the slaves that you sheltered. And that's truth, deeper than deep roots. And USA sells bullshit deeper than deep roots. And ask the dreamer for their paper and their proof when they should go to the history books for their proof. They can't change the truth, but they can disguise it. Call it a law and dreamers illegal to hide behind it, but they can't really deny it. This land is not your land, and this land is not mine. This land belongs to Native American tribes. Why didn't Native Americans ask for our papers? Why did Native Americans tell us to go home instead of teaching us to feed ourselves? Now we starve youth that are dreaming and ask them to go to the back of the line. I can't stand this bullshit. They have stolen dreams like they stole the land, can't go to college and get an education, can't drive or work or be an immigrant in an immigrant nation, but can live in fear that ICE will come and can work in the field and can pay taxes. And please, please, please keep cleaning up after these capitalists. And don't ask to participate over the citizenship that is owed you, because USA don't like to pay what they owe. 40 acres and a mule still waiting for it to show. Do keep dreaming and keep fighting, because I believe it's not as far away as it seems, because folks like me are dreaming and fighting with you and will until we can all be citizens too. And feel that. And then I'm going to actually, because I am a member of Black Workers, just ask that you share just a moment of what's going on. Can I do that, please? I need to do that. Thank you.
She's too much. Well, my name is Diana, and I'm undocumented and unafraid. A lot of people call me divisive and in your face and straightforward. I call it like it is. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine. I'm currently a co-founder of NC Dream Team and working with for undocumented youth, and trying to just build a movement of undocumented everybody, but understanding that like youth, we're going to be able to take risks that our parents simply can't take, just because our parents are working, our parents are trying to bring food to the table, our parents are thinking about all of these responsibilities, whereas like we don't. Like us as youth, we have the facilidad, we have, it's easier for us to do civil disobedience, and it's at that point that we are. We're tired of ICE, we're tired of living the way that we are, and petitions are not enough, and lobbying is not enough, and we have we're a part of the National Immigrant Youth Alliance. We're not affiliated to what most undocumented youth are a part of this other network, but there's sort of a splinter groups happening now within our movement, and I'm proud of that, because I think division is a good thing. I don't think division is a bad thing. I personally think this whole under one umbrella thing is nice and great, but in reality we need to build capacity within our own struggles and then come together, and that's going to happen naturally. And so recently I was arrested in Charlotte after organizing a civil disobedience. And what solidarity doesn't look like that happened that day was that people showed up trying to pass out their own flyers, and I felt very disrespected about it. That I think we need to work it out here in North Carolina, talking about what solidarity really is and what solidarity isn't. If you're coming and bringing your own agenda to somebody's, to somebody's rally, that's not solidarity. Solidarity is, being able to stand with other people, leaving your agenda second. And other than that, the general issue, was, you know, seeing how Charlotte police reacted, how they just completely freaked out when, you know, they see us like sitting on at this intersection and blocking traffic for like 30 minutes or 40 minutes. It was funny. And then, yeah, and so I was arrested because I was the police liaison. I was one of 3 people that were undocumented, because there were other documented allies who were also arrested, but I was one of the people. We were not supposed to be arrested, but we realized, you know, several of our people who were arrested were interviewed by DNC investigators and people like that, because if you know, the Democratic National Convention is happening in Charlotte next year. And so these people, like, they caught up, you know, to the message that was, you know, a mission accomplished. That was the plan, that the Democrats realized, we're not going to put up with your bullshit. You can't keep lying to us like that, Obama. You can't keep trying to say you're going to stop our deportations. You can't keep trying to put out your memos and think that we're just going to think, oh, it's cute, and just lay back and, like, you know, call you our ally, because you're not. You keep deporting our people. You keep tearing our families apart. And at this point, you know, we're fed up. We're gonna take it to whatever extreme. Hopefully soon, our parents will be able to sit in intersections and block them, and we'll be able to organize. So it doesn't just have to be DREAM Act eligible people. And so I'm really excited of like seeing how this is going. To be honest, to be completely blunt, I feel like there isn't enough support for the undocumented youth movement in North Carolina. And in other parts. It hasn't just happened here. I've been to other places where I feel like a lot of us at the national level do not feel supported, because people think we're just, you know, rebel rousers. We don't know where we're going, and we might not have the bigger vision, but I think that that we do have, that what we are doing needs to be done at this moment, at this point, and whether you agree or not, it's tactics that other people have taken in the past, and we're not going to stop. And so, thank you.
So let's give it up again to this amazing panel, freedom fighters that are throwing down and sharing their wisdom with us and giving, quite honestly, super inspirational. So let's give it up again. And thank you to our moderators, Helena and Ajamu, and to Erin Byrd with that amazing poem, and Viviana, who is here also doing interpretation and translation with us. So give it up for all the folks on this panel.